Hello and welcome back to History Workshops. Now last week we ran a First World War history workshop at a local school. Now during the course of the day we discussed the main things like the causes, the main characters, we did uniforms, weapons like this Lewis gun, and we also did an activity which really inspired me. All the Year 6 children would have this board game that we designed. They'd have a token and some dice. Each child would roll the dice and then move their token and land on these squares. Each square would have a little factoid about the First World War. And as they progressed, they'd write down more and more of these little details about the war. And at the end, they'd have this list of about 10 or 12 things associated with the war and life in the trenches. They would then go away and use iPads, books, and the displays we'd set up to really bulk out all these things they'd written down. And then taking this massive information, they'd write a letter home to a loved one during the First World War. These children, Year 6, 10 and 11-year-olds, wrote some fantastic letters and were really inspiring. Here's just a selection of 2 of them. I hope you enjoy.
Dear family, war is hell. There is absolutely nothing worse than this. Each day I have bully beef and tack. It's horrible. Yesterday we had an inspection. I found out that I had trench foot, and if I don't treat it well, it may get amputated. Many of us have been shouted at for being so untidy. Last night, I had to go out and fix a wire, so if the Germans went into no man's land, it would be hard for them to get through. It was all dark and cold, and I was praying a flare wouldn't go off. Something horrible happened last week. My mate John, he got sniped. I grabbed his wheelbook, and it is in this package for you to give to his family. Also, that day we had a gas attack, and all I could see was a wet, soggy, green cloud of thick gas. I have the most horrible scratchy mask to stop the gas getting in, but I am very grateful for it. I must do the thing every soldier dreads tomorrow, going over the top. I have to get out of my trench, go into no man's land, and try to shoot other people without getting shot myself. The trenches are wet, they're dark, and worst of all, it's a place without you. I write to say I'm doing very well and hope to see you soon. I am alive for now. Love from James. Dear Mum, life here is awful. I've had a few experiences that I loved, but overall, everything was horrible. My best moment was when I saw a dogfight between 2 biplanes, and we beat them. For lunch, I had some bully beef and hard tack, which is what I have every day. When I do eventually come home, I'll have a few wounds that weren't bad enough to go into hospital for. I did get a bad case of trench foot. Every week a foot inspector came round to inspect our feet, just in case we get trench foot. As he walked up to me, I struggled to get my boot off, but I found it wouldn't come off. I called to my friends and they quickly came over. After a few tugs, my boot tugged free, carrying a toe with it. The inspector came over and told the bad news right to my face. Oh, the feeling was horrible. The pain wrenched at my feet so much that I fainted and woke up on the muddy floor in the hospital. I spent 2 whole weeks on that muddy floor, and honestly, I thought that was the end of me. However, luckily, it wasn't. Soon after I recovered, I was sent on a night expedition to cut the Germans' barbed wire in the pitch black. If I had made one wrong move, then they'd be onto me. Sadly, I did. Machine guns fired around me as I ran back as fast as my legs would carry me. I jumped down just in time to dodge a whiz-bang. As it illuminated the black sky, I ducked and held my breath, hoping that breath wouldn't be my last. I have been very lucky in my time, and luckily my luck reigned on. Later that week, I heard that tanks were going to attack the Germans. I clicked on my bayonet and ran behind the tank. It was all going well, until I heard the rattle of a machine gun. The bullets were deflecting off the tank into the soldiers, so once again I ran, only to come back and collapse exhausted. For 3 whole days I was stuck in the trenches. Many exciting things happened, but also many bad things. The worst by far was the gas attack. We ate some bully beef, said a few prayers, and smoked a few cigarettes. A yellowy, greeny cloud was spotted, and the clacker clacked. I dug around in my webbing, and to my relief, found my gas mask. I popped it on and went to check on my mates, Sam, Dan, Brian and Joe. They were okay. But when I turned the corner, I could see my best friend Graham. He was struggling with his. The gas descended, my heart beated. Blood came pouring out of his mouth. I felt a tear roll down my cheek. Instead of watching my friend die, I turned back around the corner and tried to forget about it. A few years, or so it felt later, the gas lifted, and I breathed fresh air once again. Vowing to never forget Graham, I sat down and waited for my orders. Eventually, the whistle blew. Bayonets again clicked. Everyone's breath caught in their throat. We were going up, onto the place where most people say goodbye to themselves. We ran up as we hoped our next step wouldn't be our last. Friends and enemies fell around me. A bullet skinned my ear, and all went silent. I wondered if I was dead, but decided against it. If I was dead, I would see Graham. My ear stung, and as I went to itch it, I realised it wasn't there. Turns out it did hit my ear, and the shock had made me deaf. I lay down and waited for the end. Later that day, I woke up in hospital, this time on a bed. The stinging had gone, and I was told to stay until I was better. God knows how long I stayed on that bed, but at least I was happy to have a rest. I'm not sure I'll survive, but if I do, then you probably won't recognise me. Many thanks.